Hello and welcome to A Cuppa with So Timeless with me, Rowena. We're back here today with with a cuppa and with the blue checked vintage dress, which I'm planning to finish in this video, hopefully. So I can't remember if I said it in the last video, if it was the one in between, that I had made a mistake in the last video when I was sewing and forgotten to leave. I was so excited about getting this all done. I'd forgotten to leave the gap for the zip in the bodice part. So I unpicked that. And I've managed to finish it off really nicely with the overlocker. I managed to get the overlocker in there, so it's all nice and seamless and finished off, ready for the zip to go in. So I've also stitched together the front part where the buttons will be going and where the skirt will be attaching there, so that needed to be together, and then there'll be buttons on the front. The reason for a zip that goes all the way up into the bodice area is because the bottom is so fitted around the waist area, and you just want to be able to get into the dress otherwise. That's how I discovered my mistake, because I was trying to get this onto Dolly and nearly ripped the whole thing, but luckily noticed what had happened before doing so. So today, a bit of sewing. I must just say I've got my girls at home today, my daughters, so if there's some background noise, if there's some chatting, if they suddenly appear and start talking in the background, that's why. They do know that I'm filming, so they probably won't come in because they don't want to be on my film, on my video. But if they do appear, that's why. And the dog was around a minute ago, but she seems to have vanished for the moment. So she may be barking later on again, like a previous video, which is fine. It's all part of life, isn't it? So let's get on. So the bodice is all made and ready. And now the next step is to get the skirt put together. So we've got front panels, and there's 3 panels, the 2 side panels. There's the middle panel, which is cut on the fold. There's 1 panel, and then the 2 side panels, and the back is exactly the same. It's also, so just to show you the side panel there. So this, got to make sure I'm putting the right bits together. It'll be the straight edge there against the side here. So I'll just pin those in place while we have a little chat, and then I'll sew them all together. And this fabric is very hard to tell the right side from the wrong side. I'm not sure there is a right side from a wrong side, to be honest. I think it's both the same. I've tried to see if there's a way to tell. I even looked with the selvage, but it was, even on the selvage, it was difficult to tell if there was any real difference. But I just want to pin these very roughly so that I know which part goes with which part, and so that I make sure that they fit correctly as I'm sewing, because when things are cut in a diagonal like that, they tend to stretch and move as you sew, and you want them nice and even when you get to the ends. So get those pinned in place. And something I was going to have a little chat about, something that I was thinking about that was quite interesting, is I've never really been a dress person myself, and I was trying to sort of think about it, why that might be. Why have I never really wanted to wear dresses, never been interested in wearing dresses? There's been occasions when I have. I remember even as a child, if there was a particular dress that I really liked, I would wear it. And I went through a stage of wearing skirts a lot as well. but there were very particular types of skirts. I remember in the 1980s, the Basque skirts. Oh, I loved those. Those were my favorites. And my mom used to make them out of stretch fabric for me. And there was just something about the way those fitted and hung on you that I really liked. And I know it's difficult to tell now because I wear kind of baggy clothes, and that's because of a health condition at the moment. But the I do actually have quite a small waist and rather large hips, which I inherited from my family, and so I always found and find it difficult to find a dress that really suits me. But since getting involved with doing vintage sewing and looking at the vintage style dresses, I must say I've been rather taken with and quite keen to actually try some of these dresses for myself, because they tend to have the nipped and waist with the hips that go out. And when you look at the photos of the fashion in the sort of 1940s, 1950s, that was the natural shape that was sort of promoted in women. So I'm thinking more and more about adding some vintage dresses to my wardrobe. At the moment, I'm working on getting some more vintage type blouses and tops into my wardrobe. That's step one. But I certainly am definitely contemplating the dresses. So watch the space. Never know what's coming. And yeah, it'd be interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Are you a dress person? Are you not a dress person? The reasons why. Why is it? Is it a practical thing? Is it a physical thing? What are your reasons? Just because you don't like them? No particular reason. And yeah, it'd be interesting to hear people's views. And also, is there anything in particular you've ever seen that you've thought, well, perhaps that if I had those, I might actually wear more dresses or skirts even? Or are you just a full out jeans person, a full out slacks person? What is your preference? And if you want to share, why? I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas. Now, one of the other things today is we're going to be putting a zip into this dress, as I've mentioned already. There's the part I've shown you where the zip goes, and yeah, the zip, it needs to be a invisible zip. So in other words, a zip that doesn't show. And I'm going to share with you my little tip on how to get the perfect and visible zip that doesn't show but lies nice and flat and looks good. So without further ado, those are all pinned. I'm going to get sewing, and I will probably see you once the skirt is actually on the bodice and I'm ready to put the zip in. I will see you soon. So I've sewn all the skirt seams together and left the gap for the zip this time, and overlocked all the seams nice and neatly. So we're ready to put the skirt onto the bodice and make this into a dress. I've pinned it all into place. They are, to ease it into place, instead of using gathering, I've used a couple of tiny little pleats at the front and back in the center, because that's made it fit perfectly into place and looks quite cute when it's done. It sort of blends into this fabric quite well, so it works well. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this together, and I'll see you in a while. the skirt is on, and I've had a little fit on Dolly just to make sure that the opening for the zip is big enough, although I followed the markings on the pattern. Just wanted to be 100% sure. I'm going to have to start thinking about buttons soon. Got a few ideas. I have to see what's in my box. And next step is going to be to get the zip into the side. Just a brief sort of look. I'll show you better once I've got it on Dolly, when it's more done and when I'm pinning the hem in. So you can see the little pleats there. They're kind of just blends into the fabric nicely, gives it a nice lie at the back, and the same in the front, and I think it's looking good. So to put an invisible zip in, I have a little trick, and it's the reason I haven't actually ironed the seams yet, because it involves the ironing. I've got my zip. I've actually got an actual invisible zip, which has the teeth on the back rather than on the front. So that's the front of the zip fastening. But the way I sew it in, it will be invisible anyway. And what I've decided is, because it'll take too long to try and show you putting in the zip on this dress, my little trick for doing it so that it goes in nice and perfectly first time without too much difficulty. I'll show you briefly what I'm doing in a few shots, but I'm going to do a separate video on just a piece of fabric to show you how to put a zip in, invisible zip in case you're interested, in case you'd like to just see how it's done, or in case it's something that you'd like to know how to do yourself in the future, if you do sew for yourself, so that you can do it easily, because there's nothing worse than struggling and trying to get it to lie flat and not show and get the seams right. This little trick makes all of that a lot easier. Basically it involves just doing some basting of the seam closed and then sewing the zip in with the seam closed and ripping it apart afterwards so the zip is in there perfectly placed. So I don't know how much you'll be able to see on when I'm doing it now, but I will post a separate video showing that in more detail. Might come out before this one actually. We'll see. And I'll see you once I'm ready to pin the hem. after making a bit of a mistake with the zip as I was putting it in, I finally have the dress all done, barring the buttons and the hem at the bottom. I'll do some shots after I've done this little clip to show the full length dress. I can't get it to fit in the video and still be able to see it clearly. I'm really pleased with how it's come out. Very pleased with the fit. It looks exactly as it should. A little bit of give in the bodice, good fit around the back. I'm really happy with the cuffs. I love these big cuffs, and I absolutely adore the collar, the big collar. And unfortunately, I think this dress is going to be a bit small for me, but my daughter's got her eye on it to model it for me. So you might be seeing that as well. I think I've also found the perfect buttons. And I've chosen these ones, which I think will be an absolute perfect fit. I'm just going to hook that onto the pin actually, because you won't see it with my fingers in the way. And I'll do a better close-up of that once I've sewn the buttons on. I think it's a good size button. It's going to fit in nicely, and the colour absolutely matches perfectly. I don't think you can see it very well on there. One thing I'm trying to decide is the dress came with a sort of self belt, but it doesn't have loops for the belt, which I think I'd have to add on if I was putting a belt on. And I'm not convinced the belt will actually add anything to the dress. So I'm really contemplating doing it just like this. If I do change my mind, you'll see it with the belt on. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye because I have nothing more very interesting to say in this video. But I will pop some more shots on of and stills and little clips of the dress as it reaches the end. Basically just the hem to do and the buttons, and once I've decided if I'm going to do the belt, I will have to add the belt on as well. But that's it. So goodbye for now, and I'll see you next time.